Rod Blanken Khan, a reconnaissance platoon non-commissioned officer with the 1st Battalion Lancaster Regiment, was wounded in the turret of a ferret when, as he put it, a sniper squeezed around through the open flap he was peering out of. The ferret was not invulnerable. It was survivable. There is a difference. While Aden was burning, another ferret campaign was being fought in the swamps of Borneo. From October 1962, the Queen's Royal Irish Hussars deployed ferrets on jungle operations in Brunei and Sarawak against Indonesian insurgents during confrontation. The Mark I/II variant, with its extra crewmen and its fixed, low-profile superstructure, had been built for exactly this. Dense canopy, narrow tracks, poor visibility, ambushes at 15 meter. The Ferret was one of the few armored vehicles small enough to operate there at all, but the longest combat deployment of the Ferret's career was not in any colony. It was in a part of the United Kingdom itself, Northern Ireland, 1969 to roughly the mid-1990s, on Operation Banner. The vehicle was called the Dalek by Belfast residents. According to the National Army Museum's collection records, the turret, the thin hull, the menacing silhouette at the end of a terrace street, the Browning machine gun barrel pointing out, all of it left an image people did not forget. From 1973, the Ferret was pulled from routine urban street patrols as too provocative. It moved to the rural border areas, to South Armagh, to Fermanagh, to the places the Army called bandit country. There it was, welded with mesh headlight guards, and beside the turret, an improvised vertical angle iron blade known as the cable cutter. Local crews described it as designed to sever wires stretched across country lanes to decapitate a vehicle commander. The incidents accumulated. May 12, 1971. A remote-controlled improvised explosive device detonated at the junction of Glen Road and Monarch Road in Belfast. According to the Hansard parliamentary record of May 18th that year, the target is thought to have been a Ferret scout car passing at the time. No damage, no arrests. August 1971, Cullaville, South Armagh. Corporal Peter Webb of the 14th 20th King's Hussars was commanding a Ferret approaching the customs post when his vehicle was hit by a claymore mine and automatic fire. According to the Horsepower Museum regimental record, with a half-inch bolt driven into his jaw, he calmly returned fire and gave his driver the order to reverse out of trouble. Webb was awarded the Military Medal and invested at Buckingham Palace in 1973. July 1972. Linnadoon, Belfast. 2nd Lieutenant Robert Williams. Wynne of the 14th 20th King's Hussars was shot dead by a provisional Irish Republican Army sniper while commanding a Ferret patrol. His driver, Trooper Brian Hansel, wounded in the shoulder, drove his dying officer to Musgrave Park Hospital and was mentioned in dispatches. August 1972. South Armagh. A Ferret was destroyed by a landmine of approximately 600 pounds of explosive. One soldier was killed. That incident is widely cited in regimental histories and in Toby Harnden's book Bandit Country, though the specific casualty's identity remains unconfirmed in the open sources we could verify. The units cycled through. 14th 20th King's Hussars, 5th Royal Inniskilling Dragoon Guards, 4th Royal Tank Regiment, Queen's Own Hussars, Household Cavalry, 17th 21st Lancers. For more than 20 years, the Ferret was the armored face of a counterinsurgency that nobody wanted to call a war. Now, here we need to correct something. There is a popular story that during the Iraqi invasion of Kuwait on August 2nd, 1990, Kuwaiti Ferrets fought Iraqi T-72 tanks at the Battle of the Bridges at Jarrah. It makes for a dramatic story. It is not what happened. According to Global Security's inventory records, Kuwait owned around 90 Ferret marks in 1990, but they were explicitly listed as in storage. The 9 to 10 hour delaying action at Jarrah was fought by Colonel Salem Massoud al-Surur's 35th Armored Brigade, using 36 Chieftain Mark V/2 K tanks supported by BMP-2 infantry fighting vehicles, M113 armored personnel carriers, M109 A2 self-propelled howitzers, and M901 anti-tank vehicles. This is the order of battle confirmed in the United States Army Armor Magazine reconstruction from September-October 1995, in the Institute for Defense Analyses Iraqi Perspective Study from 2008, and in Reuters interviews with Colonel Salem himself. What Colonel Salem said about his men at Jarrah deserves to be remembered regardless. We fought, he told Reuters, because we thought we were all going to die anyway, and in such situations, you fight tooth and nail. Those chieftains held the Iraqi 3rd Armored Division long enough to let the Kuwaiti royal family escape south. That is the real Battle of the Bridges. The Kuwaiti Ferret's actual combat record was earlier and quieter. After the Yom Kippur War of 1973, Kuwait sent a task group known as Al-Jahra Force to Syria. Equipped with Vickers main battle tanks, Saracens, and Ferrets, they held positions on the Golan Front until September 1974. Documented detail is sparse, but they were there. The Ferret's own war with the Iraqi army did come. It just came later. And on the other side, February 1991, Operation Granby. A single Ferret, a Mark I/1 nicknamed Tally, deployed with the Queen's Royal Irish Hussars Brigade for the liberation of Kuwait. By this point, the vehicle was 39 years old as a design. The Queen's Royal Irish Hussars Museum describes its role directly. Tally was used to marshal all Irish Hussars battle group vehicles by leading them into the correct column in preparation for their move through the breach. During the next phases, the Ferret Scout Car, along with 3 others, became affectionately known as Ferret Force, providing close protection to regimental headquarters as the advance to contact continued. During one incident, when regimental headquarters came under friendly machine gun fire, the benefit of having a Mark I/1 with the turret soon became evident. 39 years after Sid Shellard's drawing office prototype rolled out of Coventry, a Ferret was riding in the spearhead battle group of the last great maneuver war of the 20th century. Then it just kept going. Compare what the rest of the world had built to replace it. The American M114 Armored Command and Reconnaissance Carrier entered service in 1961. General Crichton Abrams called it a failure in 1973. Only around 615 were built before the program was killed. The Soviet BRDM-2, fielded in 1962, was larger at 7 tons, amphibious, and armed with a 14.5mm heavy machine gun. 7,200 were built. It was a more capable combat vehicle in raw firepower, but it was never sold to any operator outside the Warsaw Pact sphere. The French Panhard AML-90 came next. Panhard's engineers, having reportedly studied the Ferret closely before designing it, mounted a 90mm rifled gun and outsold the Ferret on the export market after the mid-1960s because customers wanted a Scout that could actually fight tanks. 4,800 of those were built. The German Spähpanzer Lux, entering service in 1975, weighed 21 tons on 8 wheels. A completely different class of vehicle. Against the M114, the verdict is unambiguous. The Ferret did everything the M114 was supposed to do, and it did it for 40 years in British service rather than 12. Against the BRDM-2, the Ferret is outgunned and outprotected. But it is smaller, quieter, more reliable, and it was bought by dozens of nations the Soviets could never reach. Against the AML, the Ferret lost the export race on firepower, but won the longevity race on simplicity. And longevity is where the story becomes extraordinary. The International Institute for Strategic Studies military balance for 2024 still lists active Ferret inventories in roughly 11 nations. Cameroon holds around 15, Central African Republic around 8, Indonesia around 55, Kenya around 12, Uganda around 6, Zimbabwe around 15. Malaysia's Royal Malaysia Police still runs them. Burkina Faso. Malawi. Nepal is the headline. 40 Mark IV Ferrets, delivered in 1981 and 1995. According to Stockholm International Peace Research Institute transfer records, remain on Nepalese army strength per the 2024 military balance. Parade footage from Kathmandu confirms running vehicles. Nepal is almost certainly the last army in the world operating the Ferret, as a formed element rather than as a museum piece. Ukraine is the other great longevity story. At least one Mark I, privately purchased in the United Kingdom and shipped through volunteer channels, appeared with Ukrainian forces in August 2022. That second Mark I, the one with the anti-drone cage and the multi-frequency jammers, was filmed near Nadia in March 2025, conducting counter-unmanned aerial vehicle work. The reason this is possible, it all traces back to something Sid Shellard's team got right in Coventry in 1950. Mechanical simplicity, sealed electrics, a body that can be welded, bolted, and modified by any competent workshop. A vehicle that does not need a manufacturer to stay alive. A project Ferret today can be bought in the civilian market for around $4,000. A runner, $15,000 to $3,000. A Concours example, $40,000 to $6,000. The Military Vehicle Trust in Britain has 7,000 members. The Tank Museum Bovington holds multiple examples, including a Cutaway and a former Australian Mark V swing-fire carrier. The Ontario Regiment Museum in Oshawa keeps the largest operational Canadian fleet running. Return to that Ukrainian track. March 2025. The Ferret is not the best armored car Britain ever built. The Saladin had more firepower. The Fox had more modern sensors. The Scorpion had more speed. The Ferret was the right armored car for every small war Britain actually fought. From the mountains of Radfan, to the streets of Belfast, to the breach line at Kuwait, it was simple enough to be maintained with hand tools. It was small enough to fit down a crater alley. It was tough enough that its users never quite got around to retiring it. 73 years and counting, the Ferret has outlasted the empire it was designed for, outlasted the Cold War it was built to fight, and outlasted every contemporary that was supposed to replace it. On a Ukrainian track in 2025, Sid Shellard's little Coventry Scout car is still doing the job. Nobody planned that.